And the plot thickens. What is up? Good Mic Work back at you. The inconsistent week of commentaries continues here on the Good Mic Work channel. Things are a little bit discombobulated this week. I'm up here at my normal time now, really only to talk about SmackDown and give you guys a follow-up on Monday Night Raw. Also going to mention a couple of things about 205 Live, NXT, and some just other basic wrestling news floating around, and of course a look ahead to Fastlane and WrestleMania. Because I wasn't able to get up here immediately following the Elimination Chamber, I came up here late Monday night and reviewed the Elimination Chamber and the Great Monday Night Raw that we saw with a new women's champion crowned, and of course the big split between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. If you have not heard my commentary on those two shows yet, click the link up in the top right hand corner and you can take a look at that. As far as this video goes, of course, as always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Still looking to get all the engagement from you guys that I can get. Liking and sharing and commenting and all that stuff really helps. My channel actually has been growing pretty steadily lately, so I want to thank all of you for your support. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, like my Facebook page, and check out my website, GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com. We'll get into SmackDown first. Now, we had a major development regarding the WWE title match at WrestleMania between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Apparently, that match may or may not happen now, and a big monkey wrench has been thrown into the WWE's plans because of what Randy Orton did on SmackDown. Now, the show opened, of course, with Bray Wyatt, the new WWE champion, coming out cutting a promo as we expected that he probably would. He gets showered with a lot of love from the audience, gets the "you deserve it" chants and the whole deal, and cut a pretty good promo as the new champion, and the belt looks good on him. I'm just so happy that he finally was able to get over that hump and become world champion. This guy is long overdue. He's been so capable and so worthy. His character has been one of the best in WWE in the last 10 years. His promo style, his charisma, his work in the ring, all of it just screams world champion, and I'm so glad that he's finally got that belt. He's joined by John Cena and AJ Styles, who both individually interrupt each other. They had already announced earlier in the day that Bray Wyatt was going to be defending the WWE title in the main event against John Cena, who invoked his rematch clause right away. He wanted his match right off the bat. AJ Styles comes out and says he wants a match too. And then Daniel Bryan comes out to the stage and decides to agree and make the whole thing a three-way. So the main event of SmackDown was going to be Bray Wyatt defending against John Cena and AJ Styles. And the match was pretty damn good too. Had a lot of amazing spots. Bray Wyatt, of course, came off looking super strong. He was actually attacked in the beginning of the match by Luke Harper, who showed up and interrupted and super kicked him, the whole deal. And Bray Wyatt is still able to fight through the whole match, taking some hellacious bumps. He even went through a table with AJ Styles. AJ, I think, tried to splash him first, and the table didn't break, and then AJ wound up dropping the leg on him, and the table broke at that point. Despite all of that abuse and punishment, Bray super Wyatts himself through this match, winds up hitting the Sister Abigail and John Cena and getting the pin virtually cleanly, successfully defending the WWE title on his first time out, beating two really big stars in the WWE, just like he did at the Elimination Chamber. Now, I like what they did here, especially with John Cena, because if they are going to move John Cena on to something else at WrestleMania, which we have a feeling they will, it's nice to see that they're getting John Cena's rematches and all this shit out of the way now. I thought they might stretch this out. I thought we might see John Cena get a WWE title match on the go-home SmackDown to WrestleMania or something like that. There's still 7 weeks left. He could still get another title shot, I suppose, but for right now, it looks like John Cena might be moving on to that weird-ass mixed tag match that we keep hearing about. And AJ Styles is another guy that you have to wonder where he goes from here. He was on Talking Smack. I did see a little bit of Talking Smack, but I didn't really hear what AJ had to say. So I don't know if he's complaining or bitching, or if there's time for them to plant the seed for an AJ and Shane match. But if AJ can stay in the title mix here, I would love to see him potentially still be in a title match at WrestleMania. And that could very well happen, because after Bray Wyatt defeated John Cena and AJ Styles, he's then joined by Randy Orton in the ring, who gets on the mic and says that as long as Bray Wyatt is the WWE champion, he refuses to face him. And then he kneels down before Bray Wyatt and says, "You're my master," and basically doesn't want the WrestleMania match. And later on Talking Smack, Daniel Bryan is like, well, shit, if somebody doesn't want the match, I can't force them to wrestle. So he claims he called up Shane McMahon, and next week on SmackDown, there's going to be a 20-man battle royal, and the winner of the battle royal is going to be the new #1 contender, and seemingly probably will go on to WrestleMania to face Bray Wyatt for the WWE title. So to me, this just screams of Randy Orton in the end turning out to be the master of mind games here. You have to remember how this whole thing started. Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton were feuding. Randy Orton could not get the better of Bray Wyatt, finally basically giving up, and he cut that promo where he said, if you can't beat him, join him. And we've all been speculating that Randy Orton is just luring Bray Wyatt into this false sense of security. He's had to prove himself to Bray Wyatt time and time again. And now he's got a chance to face him for the WWE title, the ultimate revenge, and he's still playing the mind games with him. So you gotta think in the end, Randy Orton is still gonna go to WrestleMania to face Bray Wyatt for the WWE title. The only thing I can think of is maybe they're doing this to involve somebody else. I've been saying that AJ Styles deserves to be in a title match. Maybe they're doing this angle with Randy Orton as a way to insert a third man. Now, next week, they're going to have this 20-man battle royal. Whoever wins that, you would think would get the title shot at WrestleMania. Even if Randy Orton decides to change his mind, it's hard to get that number one contender out of there just because Randy Orton decides he wants his match back. It might not work that way. So maybe this is just a way to make the WWE title match a three-way, or it could be part of a much bigger master plan by Randy Orton where he has Bray Wyatt in the palm of his hand leading all the way up until WrestleMania, and maybe the week before, maybe on the go-home show, Randy Orton nails Bray Wyatt with an RKO out of nowhere and says, I'll see you this Sunday at WrestleMania, giving Bray Wyatt less than 6 days to prepare for a match that he wasn't expecting to have, and then Randy Orton can go on to WrestleMania, defeat Bray Wyatt for the title, and get the ultimate revenge for all the shit that Bray Wyatt pulled on him last year. That's the only thing I can think of here. Maybe it's also a way to get Bray Wyatt as a babyface. Maybe there's going to be some sort of a double turn here. Whatever Randy Orton is doing, you know it's got to be part of this big master plan. He learned from the best, right? The cerebral assassin, Triple H. If anybody knows how to fuck somebody over and take a long time to do it, it's the people that Randy Orton learned from. So, maybe they do something at WrestleMania where Luke Harper perhaps aligns himself with Randy Orton. He's kind of been at odds with both guys lately, but maybe Luke Harper aligns himself with Randy Orton and they both turn on Bray Wyatt, costing Bray the title. Randy Orton is the new champion. Bray Wyatt is now all by himself as kind of like a lost soul, and he kind of turns babyface. Randy Orton can be a monster heel, and maybe he can lead a new faction. Maybe you can take some of those Sanity guys from NXT and add them to the mix or something like that. So who knows where this is going? It could go in multiple different directions, but right now it's a little bit head-scratching, but I like it. I like the fact that they're giving you a reason to tune into SmackDown, because think about it, if the Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt match was just set in stone, we got a lot of fucking build until WrestleMania. We got 6 or 7 weeks here just for these guys to have tag team matches against each other. They're stretching it out to where we really don't know now what the WWE title match is going to be at WrestleMania, and I'm perfectly fine with that. There's so many weeks of TV here. Let them have some fun with it. Let them play with it. Whatever they wind up doing in the end, you would have to think that Randy Orton is still going to get the title shot somehow. He's got to come to his senses. It's got to be revealed that he's been playing Bray Wyatt like a fiddle this whole time only to set him up for something bigger. Something like that has got to go down eventually, but whatever it is, I hope they add a lot of fun twists and turns into it, and I like what I'm seeing so far, and it's going to be really interesting to see after next week who wins this Battle Royal if they actually wind up going through with it. Maybe they do the deal where they have the whole Battle Royal and there's 2 guys left in there at the end, and maybe right before one of them is about to win or something, Randy Orton does a run-in, runs into the ring and throws them both out and grabs the mic and says, I'm taking on Bray Wyatt. Of course I'm not going to give up my title shot. I'll see you at WrestleMania, Bray, or something like that. Whatever they wind up doing, I think we can all agree that it's definitely going to make SmackDown pretty interesting for the next couple of weeks, and that's a positive thing. That's why I enjoy watching SmackDown to a large degree more than I enjoy watching Raw, because it's a shorter, more condensed show, easier to watch, the storylines seem more meaningful, and they keep you guessing. And they're doing a lot with a little. I know the brands are supposed to be equal, but when you take a look at Raw, you still see clearly that Raw is the A show. Even The Undertaker, even a SmackDown guy, is going to be on Raw, battling a Raw guy most likely, going into WrestleMania. Brock Lesnar and Bill Goldberg get the big Raw stage. You've got Roman Reigns over there. You've got Samoa Joe over there. You've got Kevin Owens over there. Finn Balor, when he comes back, will be over there. I think SmackDown is really making the best of their roster to where it seems like it's just as good, if not better, than Raw's roster. When you look at it on paper, it's really not. So that's a tribute to SmackDown and how well that show's put together and how hard all the talent over there is working. Here's another idea for the WrestleMania title match now that I think about it. Maybe they do go ahead and go through with the Battle Royal next week and we have a winner. Maybe AJ Styles winds up winning it, like I mentioned earlier, or maybe, perhaps, Luke Harper wins the Battle Royal. And if he does that, and actually, as a matter of fact, no matter who wins the Battle Royal, maybe Randy Orton can do something like approach Shane McMahon or Daniel Bryan and say, look, I would like to be added to the WrestleMania main event. I want my title shot back. Please make this a triple threat and let me in. And the reason he wants to be let in is because he wants to protect his master. He's going to kneel down before him and say, I don't want to fight you, prompting Daniel Bryan to make the Battle Royal. Maybe this is a big master plan by Randy Orton to help his master Bray Wyatt retain the title, because now if they have a new number one contender, Randy Orton can say, hey, I still want my title match. They then make it a triple threat match, and Randy Orton's purpose in the match could be to protect Bray Wyatt, essentially making it a 2-on-1 match and ensuring that Bray Wyatt will retain the title. And then when you get to that match, Randy Orton can just be playing defense for Bray Wyatt, doing all of his dirty work for him, and then at the very end, nails Bray Wyatt with the RKO, pins him and wins the WWE title, screwing over Bray Wyatt, and now you're off and running with a title feud where the title can switch hands a couple of times. Randy Orton can win it at WrestleMania, maybe Bray Wyatt can win it back. Like I said, it's just one of many, many options that they can do with this world title scenario, which is why I fucking love SmackDown so much. So you guys let me know all your ideas for the world title situation, where you think they might be going with this, and anything you think they might do. As far as the rest of SmackDown, the women had some action tonight. Nikki and Natalya had another backstage interview. These girls were trying to kill each other the night before. Now they're standing there, coexisting, talking to each other, still arguing and acting like bitches to each other. And Daniel Bryan finally says enough is enough. Next week, the two of you are going to be involved one-on-one in a Falls Count Anywhere match. So maybe next week on SmackDown will finally be the blow-off between Nikki and Natalya. And since we've been hearing all these rumors with John Cena working with Nikki in a mixed tag against Miz and Maurice, they should go ahead and wrap this thing up next week. And here's another thing. Natalya should win this. I mean, if Nikki Bella, if the rumors are true about her, and she's going to be leaving after WrestleMania or working a more limited schedule and basically just semi-retiring because of the issues with her neck, they need to have Natalya go over here. Nikki is obviously going to go on to bigger and better things and probably going to get a victory at WrestleMania in a big grand moment side by side with her boyfriend. A loss here to Natalya on SmackDown isn't going to do her any harm at all, and Natalya is sticking around. She's going to be one of the girls on your roster, and you need to strengthen your women's division anyway. So if Natty can get a victory over someone the caliber of Nikki Bella, that's only going to help Natty, and then Nikki can still go into WrestleMania with John Cena to defeat the Miz and Maurice and have their big moment and all of that, and it's pretty much a win-win situation all around. So hopefully next week this will be the blow-off. This will be the final match. Maybe they'll do one more. Maybe it'll be a cage or something like that. Maybe Nikki wins next week in the Falls Count Anywhere, and it's not quite over, and they do one more match where Natalya wins, and then they move on to John Cena and Nikki Bella and Miz and Maurice. Who knows? They've got a little bit of time here, but sooner or later, they're going to have to wrap this shit up, and since it looked like they wrapped up business with John Cena, with him getting Sister Abigail'd and pinned by Bray Wyatt, not only at the Elimination Chamber, but in his title rematch, you got to think that he's already moved on, so they might be doing the same thing with Nikki next week. We'll have to wait and see, but right now, SmackDown's looking pretty good. Between that ladies match that could have some implications on the future, and of course, the Battle Royal, which we don't know what the hell is going to happen there. It should make for a really interesting show next week. Some of the other things that took place on SmackDown, American Alpha faced off against the Ascension again. No surprise that Alpha easily won that match. Hell, if they won the Tag Team Turmoil after getting beat down by the Usos and still survived a fresh Ascension team coming in last, they're not going to have any trouble defeating these guys in a simple contest on SmackDown. The Usos then cut a promo on the Titantron after the match, and I guess that title feud is going to continue. I like the Usos. I like them as heels. I like their new look. They seem like their stock is dropped. Their heel turn really didn't do much to rejuvenate them, I don't feel. I definitely like their attitude and their look and their theme music a lot better, and I'm still a big fan of the Usos, probably easily one of my favorite tag teams in WWE, so I'd like to see them get back on top of the mountain again, but American Alpha, the way they've been rolling, I don't see any signs of them slowing down at least yet, and they'll probably go into WrestleMania as champs. Dean Ambrose and Baron Corbin continued their issue that began at the Elimination Chamber when Baron Corbin destroyed Dean Ambrose after being eliminated, causing Dean himself to get eliminated as well. Dean shows up to the arena looking everywhere for Baron Corbin, asking everyone if they've seen him, eventually runs into James Ellsworth and Carmella, and James, of course, is doing his thing with Carmella, and he's dressed like a complete fool, and Daniel Bryan is there, and Ambrose is so frustrated that he asks Daniel Bryan if he can have a match with Ellsworth so he can just kick the shit out of him because he hates the way he looks. looks. Daniel Bryan actually says okay and makes the match, but the match never happens. James Ellsworth is in the ring with his teeth chattering, awaiting a huge ass kicking, and then Baron Corbin starts dragging Dean Ambrose through the entranceway when Dean is making his entrance. Apparently Corbin attacked him backstage, beat the hell out of him, drags him out to the stage. The two start fighting. Dean Ambrose tries to make a comeback, but Corbin eventually picks him up and hits him with one of his signature moves through a whole bunch of electrical equipment, and they had rigged it for a big spark or explosion to happen when Dean went through it. But if you go back and watch, the explosion happened about a split second before Dean even landed on the table. So the whole thing went off a little bit early, which I kind of got a chuckle out of. But still, I enjoy the segment, and I think I'm going to enjoy this feud. I'm really hoping that they go into WrestleMania to have a one-on-one match for the Intercontinental title. Like I said, still a lot of weeks before WrestleMania. It's going to be hard to keep these guys away from each other long enough to do the title match at WrestleMania. They might have to do it on SmackDown or something like that. But if they can hold it off, I would like to see Corbin win the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania and continue to build his legacy. Andre the Giant Battle Royal one year, IC belt the next. Who knows what he can do next year? He might be one of those guys that has one of the most successful first couple of years in the business ever if he continues on this trend. And on top of that, Dean Ambrose is such a good opponent for him because Dean Ambrose is fucking crazy and Baron Corbin is this big ass-kicking bully, and Dean Ambrose just doesn't give a fuck, and the two are going to be perfect together because Ambrose isn't scared of him, Corbin's not scared of Ambrose. This match would actually make a really good hardcore title match if that belt was still around, but I expect these guys to have some pretty awesome brawls with each other. It's going to be hard-hitting, and it's going to be brutal, and I'm sure this feud is going to be loaded with gimmick matches out the ass. The build to it should be fun on TV. You got to think of all the creative ways Dean Ambrose is going to think to get revenge on Baron Corbin. I am optimistic about this feud being a really successful one and a really fun part of SmackDown. So far, so good between these two guys. We also had a backstage interview with Dolph Ziggler where he was kind of explaining his actions from Elimination Chamber, where he nearly broke the ankles of Apollo Crews and beat the hell out of Kalisto with the chair. Now, Crews wasn't on the show, but he was on Talking Smack, and I understand that he was not on the show selling the injuries like he couldn't wrestle, but he was on Talking Smack as if nothing was wrong. Don't forget, this is the same move that put Brian Pillman out of action for like 9 months when Stone Cold did it to him. And Apollo Crews is walking around 2 days later as if nothing's wrong, and he had this shit done to both of his ankles. So they did talk about the ankles, and he says, quote unquote, they're not broken, but they're very sore and they hurt or whatever. How something like that doesn't break your ankle, I don't know. I understand it's wrestling, and I understand you have to suspend your disbelief and all that shit, but at least the guy should be on crutches, right? Come on. We also saw Mickie James avenge her loss to Becky Lynch at the Elimination Chamber by defeating her on SmackDown. Mickie pulled the old classic veteran move by feigning a knee injury, playing possum. Bret Hart used to do this shit all the time. Acted like her knee was hurt and sold it pretty well for a second. I wasn't even sure if she might be legit injured. But then she was able to roll up Becky Lynch, I think, and score a quick win on her to get a little bit of revenge and keep their thing going. So I was happy to see that. We did see the new WWE SmackDown Ladies Champion Naomi cut a promo with Renee Young. Alexa Bliss came out and said that she's going to eventually take the title back and they're going to have a rematch really soon. Apparently Naomi is injured. It's a minor injury. I just read about it a minute ago. I don't know what part of her body is even injured. I don't even know. Leg, knee, back, I'm not sure. But apparently it's not too serious and she should be okay. So they're going to put off the rematch, I guess, maybe a week or two between her and Alexa Bliss. So all in all, SmackDown once again was a pretty solid show, which is good. We had a great Raw and a great SmackDown this week. SmackDown in the last couple of weeks, I don't want to say were bad shows. They were just a little bit, like uneventful. So this one definitely gave us no shortage of things to talk about. And like I said, the whole overall flow of SmackDown is just a much more pleasurable thing to watch, except for the announce team. I will say that. What the hell is up with 13 announcers? To see those 4 guys crowded around that table like that is so ridiculous. Nobody likes David Otunga, but he's not going anywhere. With who his wife is and all of that. They want to keep him around. I love Mauro Ranallo, of course, who doesn't? Todd Phillips is a really solid announcer, and that idiot JBL, who fucking fell down again. Did you guys see that? He fell during the Elimination Chamber, tripped over his own feet. It was a few weeks ago on SmackDown when Dolph Ziggler beat up Jerry Lawler, and he tried to jump out from the commentary table to help, but he tripped over himself and fell down, looked like an ass. So I also want to follow up on just a few things on this past week's Monday Night Raw as well. We got some more news involving Emmalina. Apparently it's been reported now that the WWE is actually nixing the whole idea. Can you believe that shit? After all of these weeks of promos, all of this build, all of us thinking that WWE is actually going to do something kind of entertaining entertaining with this character that they've been promoting for so long and teasing us and trolling us and all that. Come to find out, after all of that effort, it's all for nothing, and they're just going to eliminate the whole idea. I guess Emmalina is going to go back to being Emma. Apparently, they said that when they started filming the vignettes or filming new stuff for her character, it wasn't clicking. They didn't like it. They've even cited possibly Emma not being invested enough in the project or something like that, so they're kind of even blaming her, it sounds like. So I don't know if they're just going to make her back into Emma, or if now she's going to get punished for not giving it 100% and making this character work or something. So I don't know how much of this is going to come down on her shoulders. Hopefully not too much. Despite her problems, the fans really like Emma. You know, she's had a couple of injuries. She had the incident where she shoplifted and got released for a brief time until the fans came to her defense and they reconsidered and actually just suspended her instead. So I would like to see her finally do something meaningful. And after all this shit with Emmalina, she's just going to revert back into Emma, which again is fine with me. I didn't think she needed to do this new character anyway. So if she's just going to go back to being Emma, I'm not going to complain about that. But the fact that they just nixed the whole thing is kind of strange and kind of came out of nowhere. So we'll have to see how long Emmalina remains off of TV before she comes back as Emma. Also, I want to elaborate a little bit more on the Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens Festival of Friendship segment. I talked a lot about that in my Raw review, and during my discussion of it, I completely forgot to mention Gillberg. Of all the shit that they did, of the big elaborate setup and Jericho's ridiculous outfit and all the Vegas girls that they had out there and the sculpture and the artwork and the list of KO and the beat down of Chris Jericho throwing his face through the TV screen, and how truly sad and crazy it was to see all that while it was entertaining all at the same time. I completely forgot that Chris Jericho brought out Gillberg at one point as well to kind of make fun of Goldberg and give Kevin Owens some confidence going into his match with Goldberg at Fastlane, and Owens ended up beating the shit out of Gillberg. But just to see Gillberg come back out with the old music and the sparklers and all that shit was fucking great. Never get tired of seeing Gillberg. Dwayne Gill, one of the greatest jobbers that has ever lived. And I also forgot to mention, however, I did tweet about it as soon as I saw it. After the beatdown, they were loading Chris Jericho into the ambulance backstage. And off in the background, if you look over the right-hand corner of the ambulance, I swear to God, there's a Bon Jovi sign lit up in lights. He must be doing a concert there at one of the hotels in Vegas. And just to see his name up in lights as Jericho was being loaded into the ambulance, to me was kind of funny. That was totally not planned. I just think that it worked out that way, and it was a funny coincidence. So go back and look at the tape. Unless I'm seeing things, because I only saw it once, I didn't rewind to watch it again, but I remember seeing Bon Jovi up there in lights, and I got a huge kick out of it. Other than that, on Raw, we got to get through Fastlane before we really have anything set in stone for WrestleMania. They are starting to make you think that maybe, possibly, Kevin Owens could actually survive his title match with Goldberg. I mean, Triple H showed up on Monday Night Raw and pulled Kevin Owens aside and had some sort of a conversation with him, and then less than an hour later, Owens is beating the fuck out of Jericho. So maybe Triple H has got something up his sleeve. Maybe Samoa Joe is going to be somebody that's going to help protect Kevin Owens. If I had to guess, I think Jericho is going to come out and do something. Maybe Triple H tries to help Kevin Owens, and Jericho comes up to foil those plans and winds up costing Owens the title there, and Goldberg wins. Otherwise, if it's just a one-on-one match, I think Goldberg, character-wise, can take Kevin Owens. I mean, this is a guy that squashed Brock Lesnar in 90 seconds at Survivor Series. I'm pretty sure that he can beat Kevin Owens on his own, so Jericho shouldn't have to interfere in this, unless maybe Triple H does first. Then Jericho can show up out of nowhere. They should keep him off TV all the way up until Fastlane too. Keep him completely off of TV, have him show up in the main event. Goldberg wins the title, which would be really kind of interesting too when you know about the personal history between Jericho and Goldberg, with them having some issues with each other in the past and even being involved in a backstage scuffle one time as well. So for Jericho to actually help Goldberg win the WWE title would be pretty ironic to see something like that happen, but it very well could. So right now I'm still guessing that we're going to see Goldberg versus Brock for the title, but there's a lot that can happen because now with Kevin Owens beating down Chris Jericho, maybe a new attitude, maybe a no-nonsense type of attitude, maybe he's going to be a little bit tougher and a little bit less of a pussy or something like that, but you know that if he does drop the belt to Goldberg, that will set up his match with Chris Jericho at WrestleMania. You got to know now that they're definitely going to face, after Kevin Owens beat the hell out of Jericho the way he did, how can they not? And although a title-for-title match is not completely out of the question, it seems kind of unlikely at this point, and Jericho and Owens will probably face each other for the U.S. title. I expect their feud to last a couple of pay-per-views because I did read that Jericho is going to be leaving around May, so they've got some time to have a big WrestleMania match and then have another match and then maybe even a blow-off and some sort of a gimmick match at the May pay-per-view before Jericho leaves or something like that. So the two of them should work a pretty fun program, and by the time this whole thing is said and done between their friendship and their feud, that thing's going to have lasted, what, a good year? I'm also curious of the status of Finn Balor. You got to think that he's got to be close to healthy, and the closer we get to WrestleMania, the more I'm thinking he's not going to appear. I think it would be awesome if Finn Balor made some sort of a special appearance at WrestleMania, or if he interfered in a match or something like that. But the closer we get to Mania, the more I'm thinking that they're going to hold off his re-debut until after Mania. I think the night after WrestleMania would be a perfect place for Finn Balor to debut at this point. When you think about it, he was only on TV a couple of weeks before he won the Universal title and then had to forfeit it and left due to injury. So to hotshot him back onto TV now and shoehorn him into the WrestleMania card somehow, I think at this point you might as well hold him off, let WrestleMania come and go, and the next night on Raw when some big bad heel is in the ring cutting a promo, maybe a Samoa Joe, maybe a Roman Reigns right after he defeats The Undertaker, then you can have Finn Balor make his big return and the Demon can come out and the whole deal, and the fans will go apeshit, of course, because the post-WrestleMania Raw crowd is nuts anyway. At this point, I think that might be the best place to bring him back, unless he's ready to go now and he's going to come back in the next week or two, or he's going to return at Fastlane, which is another possibility. Maybe he could come out during Fastlane and do something. But I definitely think it's safe to say that if we don't see him by Fastlane, then we probably won't see him until after WrestleMania. But I'm ready for that guy to come back. I also got to look at 205 Live this week. Big surprise, right? They're building up the big Cruiserweight title match between Neville and Jack Gallagher, which is going to be taking place on Fastlane. Gallagher won the big number one contender match, I think, last week. They had a small interaction on Raw this past week, and then on 205 Live, Neville took on TJ Perkins in a pretty damn good match. He tapped the little twerp right out and won the match, of course, because Neville's a badass. And Gentleman Jack, after the match, he hits the ring, tries to attack Neville. Neville fights him off, even throws his umbrella like a dart all the way up the stage. Jack eventually recovers and fights off Neville. Neville retreats, and Gallagher stands in the middle of the ring holding the Cruiserweight title as 205 Live goes off the air. So this is the first feud since the Cruiserweight division started that I really actually have a little bit of interest in. I fucking love what Neville is doing, and I'm hoping that they're not going to hot potato this belt, because a lot of guys have already held it. I like Jack Gallagher a lot. I'm more than happy with him being Cruiserweight champion one day, but I'm so into what Neville is doing right now, I think it's just a little bit early to end it. I don't mind if these guys swap the titles back and forth a couple times, but let Neville at least get through Fastlane and go into WrestleMania as champion. If you have to have him drop the belt there, that's fine. I pitched the idea of Neville having a long run and holding the belt until SummerSlam or something like that. That's probably a little bit unlikely, so at least have him hold it and go into WrestleMania as champion is what I think they should do. We also saw what they were calling the in-ring debut of Grand Metalik. Now, I would have sworn we saw Grand Metalik right after the Cruiserweight Classic on Monday Night Raw. He worked a match or two. I could be mistaken, but I would have sworn we've seen him. But nonetheless, he's there now. I guess he's officially signed. Had a pretty good match with Drew Gulak. Not one of his best. He definitely did better work in the Cruiserweight Classic, and I'm sure we will see better from him in the future. This was his first time out. Maybe he was a little bit nervous. I don't know. Not that it was a bad match or anything like that. Just I remember being a little bit more impressed with him during the Cruiserweight Classic, but we'll see a lot more of him in the future, and I'm sure he'll get a title run too, because he's fucking awesome. Rich Swann also had a match. He defeated Noam Dar, who's out there with Alicia Fox. I guess she's with Dar now. Pretty good match and a picture-perfect finish. That middle rope 450 twist thing that Swan does, whatever the fuck it's called, looked like an absolute work of art. A lot of you sing the praises of 205 Live, and I can't tell you how happy I am to hear that. That's why I wanted to check out the show this week and just watch some of the matches, and it was definitely good. I love Cruiserweight Wrestling. It's not that I've never not liked it. It just feels like the division has failed to really get over in a big way on the roster like we were hoping that it would, but that doesn't mean that the talent there isn't capable, and there's some amazing wrestlers there, and if you just want to watch some good fucking wrestling, then 205 Live is the place for you. Speaking of good wrestling, so is NXT. Now, unfortunately, I'm recording this commentary about 10 minutes before NXT airs, and apparently Tyler Bate is going to be defending his UK championship. I think the opponent is Trent Seven. I think that's his name. So it's nice to see them giving Bate some TV time since the UK show has not started yet. I wouldn't assume that he's going to drop this belt. I think this is just a way to showcase Tyler Bate a little bit. I can't see him dropping the belt after that great tournament and then him turning around dropping it on a random NXT match. So I'll be sure to tune into NXT later tonight and at least watch that match and see what happens. Check out my Twitter if you want to hear any opinions on that match. I'm sure I'll say something about it. And I think that's about it. There. I feel caught up now. Again, I want to apologize for everything being all discombobulated this week. Really effed up week kind of at work, and I was just busy and just a lot of shit going on, and it just screwed up my commentary schedule a little bit. Next week, barring any bombshell news stories or deaths or anything like that, I'll probably be up here at my normal time, extremely late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning with a joint review of Raw and SmackDown. So thanks for hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate it. I'm going to spend the rest of the weekend working on my WrestleMania Memories commentary. Yes, the re-upload of that thing is still coming. I'm trying to get it up by early March. It might be mid-March at the latest, but I'm guessing it's going to take me about another month to do once I sink my teeth into it. I've been working on it just a little bit, but it's just such an annoying process to go in there and re-edit all this stuff. I've kind of been putting it off, but I'll have that up to you before WrestleMania, and hopefully that thing can live on and not get fucking deleted this time. So those of you who are wondering about that, it is coming. And for those of you who do sit through my commentaries all the way to the end, you're going to get a little bit of a head start and an exclusive here. I am planning on doing another Q&A soon. It might not even happen until after WrestleMania, but I do want to start putting one together again. So if you want to start sending your questions, please feel free to do so. I do them email only, as most of you know, goodmicwork@gmail.com. Send in your questions and you'll be the first one to land in my inbox and for me to start preparing for my next Q&A. So I figured that would be a nice way to reward a lot of you that sit through these commentaries until the very end, and you can get a little bit of head start and get this information before a lot of people might. So enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks again for listening, and I will talk to you probably next Wednesday with your Raw and SmackDown joint review. Until next time, peace.